DocuSign posting a big earnings beat in the second quarter. Subscription revenue coming in well above estimates at around $669 million. That's an 11% rise year over year. Shares of DocuSign had been rising leading up to earnings, which were posted last week. The stock has fallen slightly every day since then. And let's talk about sort of the big picture here. More on the company's outlook. The share's down about 2/3% today. DocuSign CEO Allan Thygesen is here with us right now. Allan, thank you for being here. It's good to see you. DocuSign has been, I have to say, such an interesting story for us to cover. We spoke to your predecessor on occasion. Give us sort of the big picture view here of the changes that you have tried to put in place here at DocuSign to turn the company around.
Yeah, maybe to start with the quarter, I think it was a really solid quarter. We exceeded on all the major metrics, top and bottom line. But the transfer, and we continued, I think, to execute on the transformation that I've set in place. Areas that we're really focused on. First of all, upping our velocity of product innovation. I think with COVID, things got so focused on just meeting demand, as you can imagine, and we're really picking that up now. And so I'm very pleased with that. We're now doing monthly releases, and I think the new features that are coming out are very compelling. Second, on the go-to-market front, we have been predominantly focused on a direct sales go-to-market. And we're now really expanding that to two other avenues. One is digital self-serve motion, essentially. And we've dramatically upgraded our website and other ways of accessing our product. You can upgrade directly in the product. And lastly, going to market through partners, other software companies, as well as distributors and resellers. And we're making really good progress there as well. So overall, I think I feel very good about the transformation. The last thing I should mention, I suspect we'll talk more about this, is the opportunity presented by the changes in AI. We've been a long time investor and developer in the area, but there's no doubt that the recent changes completely unlock new opportunities for the agreement space in general and for DocuSign in particular.
And Allan, when we think about one of those tactics that you've really employed here, you mentioned it a moment ago, going to market through partners. And I feel like we might be almost lapping the kind of one-year marker of some of those agreements, especially on the software side. So what kind of partnership bump have you seen as a result of making sure that you're closer to where certain customers that are not DocuSigns, but in that kind of client base of some of those other software companies, where they have been able to engage with your services?
Well, I mean, we're very ubiquitous. We have 1.4 million customers that pay us monthly. And so we are available across almost every workflow in the enterprise and across all verticals and really sizes of companies. So from the large enterprises to the small companies. In terms of our partnership motion, historically, it's been mostly about working with the large software companies like a Salesforce or a Microsoft and making sure our products work really well with them. So essentially being available where people work. I think that work continues, and we have certainly more to do there, but I think we have a market-leading position there. I think we can support that further by partnering more closely with those companies to help their sales teams integrate DocuSign into their proposals, as well as in markets, for example, where we can't afford to build out a direct sales force, partnering with distributors and resellers who can represent us. And so that expands our distribution reach. And so it's all of that. It's very strategic for us. And when you complement that with direct sales and go to market, we just want to be available wherever customers might want to engage with us and make that as seamless and frictionless as possible.
You mentioned your ubiquity. I mean, DocuSign is a very well-known product at this point. So can you give us some specific examples of where you might be expanding beyond? Because if everybody uses you already, then how do you add, right? So where are you adding capability at this point?
Yeah. Well, we are, as I said, very broadly available, but certainly we're still in the early innings of digitizing agreement workflows more broadly, and that's even more true outside the United States, where in markets like Germany and Japan, it's really quite embryonic compared to what's happening here. In terms of the kinds of workflows, I would say electronic signature. Everyone's probably familiar with financial and mortgage-related workflows. That's probably was sort of the iconic first use case, but now it's used really across the board. Sales teams that send out proposals, HR departments that send out letters of employment, purchasing departments that engage with suppliers, In terms of some of the industries that are driving more growth now, the health sector is fantastic for us, whether it's hospitals or pharmaceutical companies, heavy paper-based companies, and processes that really are holding them back. And so they're very excited about working with us, and we're doing all the regulatory work to support that. Manufacturing, lots of supply chain stuff lends itself very well to electronic agreements and contracting. And you're looking ahead, there's a huge opportunity on the government side. We do already do quite a bit of work there, but certainly from a growth perspective, there's a great opportunity to help governments around the world.
And then as you were talking about digitizing agreement workflows here, it's hard not to think about where generative AI could potentially play a role in even drafting some of the agreements. How does DocuSign intend on leaning into that possibility, kind of removing some of the friction in time spent drafting proposals, drafting agreements, and legal documents even?
Absolutely, and so we are actually have that in various lab exercises now with customers. I do think I'm optimistic about the drafting piece, but I still think the level of accuracy that's required for complex business agreements, it's not a high school paper. That's a pretty high bar. I don't know that we can expect heavy-duty agreements to be drafted by AI, but maybe a first draft that they can be reviewed by counsel. I think the editing and review phase and highlighting how a draft that you or a third party might have created differs from past agreements that you've seen of that ilk. That's, I think, a very compelling use case. But I think saving labor in the drafting and editing phase, I think we can take out a lot of friction there. But I think the really big opportunity is actually unlocking the data in the agreements. So once these agreements are signed today, they could go into the digital equivalent of our old file cabinets. Even if they don't actually go in a physical file cabinet, they're typically flat data that no one's able to access. With AI, we can extract what's in them, whether it's the terms and the pricing, and then you can go and evaluate how the company is performing against those. That's incredibly valuable, whether it's your relationship with your customers or your relationship with your suppliers and employees. And of course, you can assess risk and compliance issues. If the war or some natural event breaks out somewhere, then you can look for that in your agreements and see where you have exposure. Those are questions that come up in the C-suite all the time. Today, it's simply not possible to answer them. And if you do want to answer them, it's 3 to 6 months of a large team of lawyers. Today, we think we can start answering those questions nearly instantly. Certainly.
You mentioned that some of these features are currently within the AI labs right now at DocuSign. Yeah. How quickly do you believe that you'll be able to bring those to market and scale up for your users, like a time frame here?
Yeah. So as we already ship a number of features, our AI, our contract analytics product, for example, is totally AI based. Our whole identity verification suite uses AI heavily. But in terms of those sort of contract review type applications and extraction that I just alluded to, so we're in the sandbox now. And the whole goal of that is to work and co-develop with clients so that we can integrate those into our products. We've indicated some of the features that will come out first at our Momentum conference here over the last couple of months. We've talked about enterprise search, for example, as becoming available in the fourth quarter. So I think we have a number of AI-enabled and assisted features on the docket, and those will roll out over the next many quarters. It'll be, I think, an ongoing thing of essentially infusing AI and agreement intelligence above the agreement workflows. And that'll happen over the next several years, but it's already rolling out.
Certainly. Good to discuss some of these new features and what is on the docket right now over at DocuSign. Allan Thygesen, who is joining us here today, DocuSign CEO. Appreciate the time.
Thank you so much for having me.